Hello, everybody. Lots to get to, but we begin with the new search for Madeleine McCann, that 3-year-old girl from Britain who became one of the most infamous cold cases in the world. But news that there is a brand new and massive search underway right now in Portugal, nearly 2 decades after McCann went missing, begs the question, why now? And what could they possibly find? German and Portuguese police are looking for clues in the Algarve, a vast region of southern Portugal, known for its coastline and sandy beaches, but also for its very dense shrubbery and woodlands. It's where McCann disappeared back in 2007. She was vacationing with her family at a resort there. She vanished from her bed in the middle of the night while her parents dined at a nearby restaurant. A new search was prompted by a request from prosecutors in Germany, who are investigating a man they believe killed Madeleine. That man is Christian Bruckner, a 48-year-old German national right now serving 7 years for the rape of a 72-year-old woman in that same resort town in Portugal. Now, he lived in the Algarve region during the time that Madeleine McCann went missing, and his phone records placed him near the resort on that night. But he has denied any involvement in her disappearance, and he faces no formal charges in her case. And he is set to get out of prison in just a few months, in September. As part of their search, investigators are reportedly using ground radar technology that lets them see 15 feet underground. And the area they're searching includes a cottage where Bruckner used to live. A short time ago, I spoke about the new investigation with Graham Hill, a criminologist and former senior British detective who worked on the Madeleine McCann case from the very start. So, Graham, there is this new and massive search underway right now in Portugal. What do they hope to find 18 years later?
Well, I think what they're hoping to find is some evidence that will enable them to pursue a prosecution against their prime suspect, which is a man called Christian B., who's currently in custody in Germany. But 18 years after the disappearance of a child, they've got to be very lucky, or they've got to be working to some very good intelligence, and we're not sure what that intelligence is at the moment.
So you don't know what sparked this big search?
I don't know what sparked it, but I've got a good idea that they're probably working on 2 theories. One is that the theory that the little girl went missing and that she was abducted and murdered close to the location, and that they're searching the areas around that location. Now, that's been done many times before, but this time I think they're working to some very strong intelligence that they gleaned as part of their investigation.
You were sent to Portugal as part of the British team investigating Madeleine's abduction just days after she went missing. You have said it was clear very quickly that Portuguese police were not doing a good job on this case. You called their approach flawed. Others have called it a fiasco. What did they do wrong?
Well, they did many things wrong. One of the most important things about child abduction is that you're fighting the clock, and you have to do things in order, and you have to do them very quickly. You have to generate lots of inquiries over a short period of time. And the first thing that they did wrong is that they didn't lock down the crime scene. They didn't stop people leaving the resort. The second thing that they did was that they didn't do what's called suspect generation, which means when you've not got a suspect, you start to trawl in your systems and your databases looking for possible suspects. So you look for sex offenders, you look for nighttime burglars, you look for people that are risk takers, people that have sexual interest in children and maybe previous convictions for those offences. And then you draw up lists, and from those lists you prioritise your suspects. And what we now know, in hindsight, is if they'd done that correctly, Christian B would have been on one of those lists, possibly 2, possibly all 3 of those lists, and would have been a prime suspect.
Right. He had a record of child sexual abuse as an adolescent himself in Germany that would have popped right up in the database. When you arrived in Portugal, You met at that point with Madeleine's parents, and you were brutally honest with them and told them that the chances that she was alive, even back then, were very small. The vast majority of children who are abducted by strangers are murdered within 3 to 6 hours.
That's correct, yeah. I mean, I'm one of the few people in the world that studied these men that abduct, sexually abuse and murder children. And I've interviewed many of them in different locations around the world. And what we do know is that if a child is killed or is murdered as a result of an abduction, then they're likely to be dead within 3 to 6 hours. These ideas, this Hollywood sort of version of people keeping children hostages and feeding them and keeping them in cages, it's just not practical. You've got to keep the child quiet, you've got to keep the child healthy, you've got to keep the child fed. So in most cases, the children that are abducted are sexually abused, murdered very quickly.
As somebody who has made a career studying these monsters, because there isn't no other word for them, to be honest, what can you tell me about what you believe about Christian Bruckner, the main suspect? He's never been charged, but he is in custody. And we do know that this latest search does come at the request of German police who are now investigating him.
Well, whenever you look at child abduction, the first thing you have to ask yourself is what kind of person will commit this kind of crime? And they are a very rare crime, and it's a very rare group of criminals that will commit these type of offences. And so you look for indicators. So if you look at Christian B, for example, he had a history of child sexual abuse in Germany. He was breaking into people's houses at night and stealing and sexually assaulting people. And also he was a risk taker. Now, when you add those two things or three things together, you end up with someone that falls into a very rare group of offenders. So he would have been very, very high on the priority list if this Portuguese police had done their work correctly.
Do you think this case will ever be solved and adjudicated? It is one of the most infamous mysteries on the planet right now.
Yeah, it's a mystery that's endured at least for 18 years, and it will always be the case until it is solved. I think at this stage, Christian B looks like a very, very good suspect, but the German police are obviously looking for some evidence that they can use to pursue a prosecution. It's likely that if they don't get that, then Christian B will be released in September, and we might never know whether he was responsible for it.
And if he's released in September, don't people like this reoffend? Isn't the reoffend rate quite high among people who commit crimes like this?
Well, for child abduction, most people who get arrested and convicted for child abduction, they never really get out. So most of them, particularly in America, they'll stay incarcerated for most of their lives. And even in Europe, most of those offenders will be locked away for the majority of their lives. So it's a rare event for someone to be released who's strongly suspected with a crime like this. And I think what's going to happen is that the press are going to hound him wherever he goes, and he's going to find it very difficult to have a normal life, so to speak.
You know, the McCanns, Madeleine's parents, have endured so much: the abduction and possible death of their daughter, suspicion that they might have had something to do with it, harsh judgment of their decision to leave her alone in the hotel room with her brother while they went to dinner at the resort. This is a family that has really been through the ringer, and I'm sure needs nothing more than finally some answers, difficult though they may be.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Jerry and Kate McCann are living every parent's worst nightmare. And so what we're looking at now is a case that's carried on for 18 years. Their other children are now adults. And so this is something that they've had to struggle with and done it all in the eye of the world's press. And it's been trolled by many people online. There's a whole network of people that are talking and saying bad things about the McCanns. But ultimately, we can only speculate the agony that they're going through and continue to go through while these searches are carrying on and Madeleine remains missing.
Yeah. Graham Hill joining us live tonight from England. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.